Hi there, my name is McCormick-Kelly, and I'm going to be giving you a presentation on misogyny internalized in women kings. So first off, I'm going to talk about Elizabeth of England. She was a significant woman during this time, so much so that the Elizabethan era was actually named after her. She did claim the throne at age 25, and she stayed there all the way until her death at age 44. A name that was given to her was the Virgin Queen because she was never actually married, and the time of her ruling was so important because it was of prosperity among many other things, but particularly for the arts and literature of arts. Next, I'm going to talk about Isabella of Castile. She became ruler due to her brother dying, and there was an immediate need for a new ruler. Of course, she was met with quite a bit of backlash due to her gender, because it was believed that women are weak and lacked the courage and strength necessary to rule. However, she did eventually become Queen of Castile. Next, I'm going to talk about Eleanor of Aquitaine. She was the daughter of a poet whose father began writing works that were heavily inspired by his wife, Eleanor's mother, a Spanish princess. She was known as the most powerful woman of the 12th century, possibly of the Middle Ages in general. She inherited a vast amount of land and married at age 15 to then join her then husband on the Second Crusade. She became the Queen of France and eventually the Queen of England. The court of Aquitaine became a hub for this type of poetry, and Eleanor was brought up in this environment, frequently listening to love songs. It was by no surprise then that she took this with her north when she married the King of France. She was passionate about this different writing style, one with passion about topics that were previously not written about, and ensured that she brought her children up surrounded by this just as she was. She had a daughter, the Marie of Champagne, who turned out to be an advocate for courtly love literature. To explain courtly love literature, it was basically a work of art focused on love and romance, a topic that was not previously displayed and circulated throughout society. It was romantic, suspenseful, and erotic, and it had three characteristics that would mainly support that it was courtly love. The first one is that the love was a secret, which created suspense for the readers or the viewers, and the second was that almost always this love was adulterous. The third is that there was a subversion of normal gender hierarchy, meaning that the men didn't always hold all of the power or call all the shots in the relationship or the story like it would happen in reality. So this became quite popular, and people were curious as to why they loved it so much. And it came down to a few points, being that marriage was often viewed as a religious and dutiful task between two people, not one that involved love and passion. Therefore, a romantic relationship needed to be found elsewhere, hence why this was often adulterous and secret. The woman was usually the one married, and her lover was not in these cases. As well, the women in these stories had more power over themselves and their relationships, something that, as I explained earlier, was only fictitious as it was not the case in reality. Love was given between two people freely, unlike a marriage where it is often confounded between families and spouses have to learn to actually love one another. Then I'm going to talk about King Arthur, which is connected to courtly love in a way that he had several stories circulate about how he was a war hero from the 7th to 9th century. And then from the 9th to the 12th century, these became more elaborate, and eventually these were combined with courtly love literature. So he was portrayed as a courtly king who enjoyed the presence and company of women, which entertained the female audience. The story of Guinevere and Sir Lancelot was born out of one of King Arthur's stories and was used as the plot line of the distressed woman and the man that had to go to great lengths to save her. My thoughts on this presentation are that the plot line used in the story of Guinevere and Sir Lancelot reminds me a lot of the common plot lines used in books, plays, and movies today. The one that the woman is in distress and incapable of saving herself, so a man has to do this, and in return she professes her love to him. I also like to think that the variation in gender hierarchy found in courtly love literatures was an influence to feminism, as it was merely fictitious at the time. However, it did become a social issue later on. I can also see why women in particular would be attracted to courtly love works of art because it provided them with storylines that they didn't previously have and weren't previously talked about. Beforehand, these were mainly based on male values and storylines and were written by mostly men, and so this gave women a part of their life to actually submerge into this passion and this romance that they didn't actually experience in real life.